right. Unmute. All right. Good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this, wherever you are. My name is Akira Harris, and I am a peer coach at LifeLab, part of Student Engagement and Career Development. This is my second year working for LifeLab, and I love it. In this presentation, I'll be going over five tips for virtual interviewing and how to master it so that in your future interview, regardless if it's virtual or not, that you'll kill it. So we'll get started. So I'll be going over similarities and differences between in-person versus virtual interviews. So first things first, for regardless of whatever interview mode they have to do, is to be prepared. Going in cold turkey to an interview is not the way to go. I can say that from experience myself. And that'll get rid of any nervous jitters prior to the interview so that you can tackle any interview that comes in your way. Next is making a good impression. You always want to make a good impression to the interviewer for any job that you're going into. And making a good impression will help the interviewer remember who you are, right? Like, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so, they had a good experience and I think they'll be a good fit for the role. Next is focus on skills and what you bring to the role. So interview essentially is just bragging about yourself. So don't be afraid to, show some skills, let the interviewer know what you bring to the role and why you'll be a good fit for that role. Next is good communication, especially for virtual interviews. You'll want to be articulate and descriptive so that the interviewer knows essentially what you're talking about. Yeah, and then we'll go to the next one, which is dress for the job you want. So I know for, nowadays we're going to class on Zoom. Well, most of us are. And you might just have like the top, right, with an appropriate shirt, but like the bottom, you're just wearing pajamas. Or maybe there's some of you that wear all pajamas to your Zoom classes. But yeah, you don't want to do that for an interview. Make sure that you're wearing the appropriate top, bottom for your interview. Like me, I'm wearing my student LifeLab polo right now, but I will say that I am wearing gym shorts right now. But we'll move on. So we'll go over some differences, right? Taking cues from interviewers. It requires more active listening, especially for virtual interviews. You're not going to be able to really see their body language, right? So you'll be really reliant on how they ask you things and what they say, how they reply to you. So active listening will be very, very important. Next, making sure you can hear and see each other and resolve any tech issues prior to the interview appointment. So making sure that prior to the interview, maybe when you join their Zoom session, just ask the interviewer, hey, can you hear me? Can you see me? And then make sure you let them know, yes, sir, ma'am, I can see you, I can hear you. Next is to ensure you have a plan if disconnection occurs. Sometimes, technology just, likes to mess up on you at the most important times. Just ensure that you let the employer or interviewer, recruiter know that your Wi-Fi may or may not be the best at the moment and disconnection might happen. Just to let them know that you'll email, text, call, or whatever other means of communication if disconnection does occur. And make sure that you demonstrate etiquette over virtual. So, just trading pleasantries like good morning, good afternoon, how are you doing? How's your day? Nice to meet you, and all that. That's still very important in an interview where you're not able to show your etiquette in person. So tip 1 is technology prep. Check and test beforehand to make sure all technology is working properly and practice with friends or family. Right, that's very important. Technology prep, right? Check your router, maybe reset your router, check your Wi-Fi. Make sure, your Zoom or any other apps is updated on your laptop. Make sure that your laptop is charged. Familiarize yourself with the program that will be used. So not every interview is going to be using Zoom. Some interviewers like to use Skype or the Zoom version of Google, or on Google, I should say, and make sure that you know each of those and how to at least use the basic functions of it. So like how to unmute yourself, mute yourself, how to turn on video, turn off video, maybe learn how to use the chat feature or anything like that. Make a plan for disconnection. This could be making sure that you and the interviewer have contact information shared with each other. So just so that you can contact the interviewer, or so that the interviewer can contact you in the case of disconnection. Speaking or emailing with the interviewer beforehand when possible to make a plan should technology issues occur. So same thing, right? So just let the interviewer know, like, hey, my Wi-Fi is like spotty, today. So I might have disconnection issues, but, I'm letting you know beforehand. So I'm prepared for when that happens, right? So we can go maybe into phone interview, or I'll just email you. And then for Zoom, that'll be like exiting the meeting and then rejoining. Tip 2, research and prepare. Right, so you definitely want to do research on the company or the employer beforehand, and where to look for that stuff. That could be on the company websites, Glassdoor, Handshake, LinkedIn, or their social media. The company website will most likely have like the company's mission statements, values, maybe like a vision statement, goals, right? The company's about us, like background information, any of their project launches, and etc., other things like that. Most likely their social media is going to be the most up-to-date regarding, what they do on a day-to-day, any projects, big projects that's been going on, anything like that. And then you can find the interview information on Glassdoor and Handshake, right? Handshake is the University of Arizona's go-to. Research will help you answer questions, inform questions to ask, so you have a discussion. So sometimes interviewers might want your opinion on what the company is doing, and you can provide the opinion if you do some research beforehand, and then y'all can have a good discussion going on in the interview. Research. What questions do you think will be asked of you during the interview? Obviously, there's going to be general, right? That's like what are your strengths and weaknesses? Tell me about yourself. Situational, technical, and behavioral questions as well. And we'll go into that in the next slide, right? So general questions, tell me about yourself. That's going to be asked in every single interview that you do. It's just a go-to for interviewers, just to get to know a little bit about yourself, right? So like it could be, for example, my name is Akira Harris, and I'm from Tucson, Arizona. Or the second one, I am a senior, and I'm majoring in criminal justice. And the second part of this is optional, but you can say I chose to go to the U of A because I love Tucson, and I wanted to stay in Tucson for another 4 years, right? That's optional. But if you have something specific about the U of A and why you went there, you can definitely articulate that to the interviewer. Third one, I'm interested in gaining experience in this and using my skills to this and that. So for me, it'll be like, I'm interested in gaining experience in career advising and using my skills to become a academic advisor in college, or maybe even a high school guidance counselor. That would be for me specifically. For you, it'll be different. And you can use that to describe the question, tell me about yourself. Prepare and choose. So we're going to be talking about what experiences do you want to highlight, right? So pick one or two experiences And that could be from like part-time jobs, internships, volunteering experiences, and it can be even, clubs, organizations, sports, or even class projects and other academics for those who have very little or none job or internship experience, right? And then we'll see what skills do you want to emphasize, right? So what skills did you gain from those experiences that will be applicable to the next job that you're going to be looking for? That's what you're going to want to emphasize because that's what's going to fit the role best. Show what you've learned about your field and your passion for the work, right? Interviewers, they love to see passion for the job that you want to go into. They like to see you talk about your passions, and then when you talk about it, your face brightens up and it's all natural, and they want to see that. Planning what you want to highlight will help you tailor your answers even without knowing the question, right? This is just preparing for the interview, right? Have in mind 1 or 2 experiences that you want to highlight, and that'll get you through the entirety of the interview for the most part. Tip 3, use the STAR method. When answering interview questions, be sure to follow the STAR method. Answer like you are telling a story. Great for behavioral questions like, tell me about a time when, what would you do if? So these are situational / behavioral questions that you'll most likely have during an interview. So the STAR method consists of situation, task, action, and result. So situation, right? Setting the scene, tell the interview the logistics of the story, who, what, when, and why, right? And then task, talk about the objective, issue, or obstacle you had to overcome. Action, talk about what you did to resolve the situation or issue. And then lastly, talk about the result of your action. The STAR method will help you step by step describe and articulate your experiences and answer the questions that the interviewers ask. And it's just a good way to follow, or it's easy to follow for yourself, and it's easy to follow for the interviewer as well. You don't want to make your answers, jump from one thing to another, and it's going to make it hard for the interviewer to try to follow you in what you're trying to say. One extra tip when using the STAR method: talk about what you have done instead of not what you would do, because what you all have already done tells employers that you are likely to do in a new position. They listen for these answers. So you want to use, when you're answering, you want to use an experience that you have already, not hypothetically what you would do, because it didn't really happen. So how would the employer know that you would actually do that in the new position? Practice makes perfect. Move this real quick. All right. Practice with a friend or family member to get yourself comfortable and feeling confident. Right? Confidence is key. Practice with a friend or family. Ask your friend or family member, like, hey, how do I look on Zoom? All right, am I sitting correctly? What's in my background? Can you hear me? And all that stuff. Make an appointment with a peer coach to do a mock interview over phone or Zoom. All right, so this is to practice with one of us, your Zoom etiquette, all right, answering questions and all that. Same thing on the phone. We'll go over questions and answers and what you could do here and what you could do there. Use Big Interview to learn how to interview with confidence and how to learn what questions to expect. So Big Interview is our most recent new tool in LifeLab, and it's a tool where you can record yourself answering certain questions, and you can re-watch that recording to see, how you look, right, your facial expression, your body language, and see what you can practice. Interviewing is a skill. Like any skill, you can improve with practice, and that's totally right. Nobody is awesome at interviewing unless you practice and practice, right? And if you have never interviewed before, obviously you're going to be a novice, and to get better, you're just going to have to keep practicing. Tip 4, show your personality and professionalism, right? So this is, dress appropriately, right? Like I mentioned before, top and bottom, all right, make sure you're dressed appropriately. Consider your background, right? So this is specifically like the video interviewing. So that'll be like my background here. I'm outside, and that's because inside my house, it's a mess. So I came back here in my backyard because there's nothing going on in my background. Give them your attention and maintain eye contact. Yes, so that'll be very important, obviously, because you're virtual. And then when you're maintaining eye contact, you don't want to look at your computer screen. You want to look at your actual camera on your laptop to maintain eye contact. Provide clear and concise answers, right? So that's just describing and being descriptive, and articulating, your answers. Be aware of background noises that may be amplified through your audio. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, in my house, I have 2 dogs, and I have no idea when they're going to bark, but they bark very loudly. So obviously that's why I'm outside. And it'll be dependent on what you got going on in your house, right? Maybe you have roommates, friends, family that sometimes are louder than they should be. So maybe just let them know, hey, can you please be quiet for like 10 to 15 minutes? Or that might even mean like, going outside in the backyard like I am, or maybe going somewhere else quiet, like on campus at the library or something like that. Make the most of the tools you have, the camera. So obviously for virtual interviews, your main tool for this one would be your camera, right? That's your way of talking and communicating and seeing the interviewer, and that'll be very, very important. Tip 5, ask questions. Ask the employer to see your interest and shows engagement, right? So some questions might be like, what is a typical day like in this position? How is the department trying to achieve company goals, etc.? And there's some other questions listed there as well. But I want to talk about probably the most important question, especially during this time, would be asking what the company has done to help and support employees during this pandemic. For example, like my dad's job at Raytheon sent all the employees home unless you have to be at the building, and implement to, like you have to wear a mask if you're going to come on site. You're going to have to social distance, temperature checks outside, and some other things to mitigate COVID-19. And I would think that this is a very important question to ask so that you can see how the company or employer treats their employees. And then you don't want to work somewhere where they only see you as like a tool rather than a human being. So just keep that in mind. So after the interview, send a thank you email. It shows etiquette, communication, writing skills. Did you finish your interview and realize you forgot to mention something? You can work that into your thank you message. So this is just a good follow-up with the interviewer, just saying, hey, thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to this job. Right? So format for the email, 1 or 2 paragraphs. Yeah, really short. Remind them of your qualifications, reiterate your interest. And for timing, send within 24 hours of the interview. You don't want to send it like 3 days to like a week later. Try to do it as soon as you finish the interview so that you can send it either the same day or like the next day, so that they're still fresh in your mind. Recommend email because it is the fastest form of communication. So what's next? So if you need more information, tips, and tools, our website's right there, career.arizona.edu. We got a lot of resources on there. Practice your response to tell me about yourself. Yeah, that's definitely important. That's usually the first question they ask, and that'll set the tone for the rest of the interview. Interview practice through mock interviews. Like I mentioned before, you can make an appointment with us on Handshake with any one of us, and we'll go over any questions or concerns you may have about mock interviews or interviews in general. And that's the link right there for Handshake appointments. And this is a slide for our fall career days, which was this past week. So I'm not going to go over that, but just know that there will be a spring career days in the future. So just be aware of that. These were our fall career days. Regardless, I hope that this video will help you achieve your virtual interview goals and dreams. And just know that you can always reach any of us for any questions and concerns about virtual interviewing or any other concerns such as resumes, cover letters, anything like that. Thank you and have a great day.